But yeah, so I mean, what do you think, guys? Do you think that these people are right? Do you think that the future is polygamous? I mean, it kind of seems that way. And again, I mean, if you asked, if you just went up to a random woman in the street and said, is society, are you looking for a polygamous society? Is that what you want? Most women would say no. However, would most women knowingly or even unknowingly, preferably unknowingly, but would they share up what they consider to be a high value man with other women, or would they prefer to go with a dude who's low value, who they 100% know is going to be faithful entirely to them? I would suggest in many cases they would go for the high value dude. Okay, and again, the level of the value is going to determine that even more, because if he's like rock star status, you know, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it, for many women? I think I'm just going to find. Okay, right. So we've got an old.
So just a few designs that I've been.
We got an Alexander Grace video. I want to show you. I want to show you in a second, but let's just have a look in the chat. So, are women victims of their own success, says marriage causes divorce, or are they now free from having to serve husbands and kids? Well, I mean, it depends what they want. It depends what the individual woman wants. I think the reality is, I think the majority of women actually still do, in the end, want to settle down. They want to find a good man to settle down with. Many women actually do want children. They do want a family. So, I think they are victims of their success in that sense, you know, because they're becoming more successful in the material world, but that's making it harder for them to find guys that they would seek to settle down with, and that is a problem, because they've also got the biological imperative, the biological desire to pair bond, have a family, etc., etc. What's the tallest JBB? What's the tallest woman you've ever dated? I don't know. I don't tend to. I'm particularly date super tall women. I prefer women in generally. I prefer women generally who are shorter than me or my height at most. Let me clarify: really tall women are lonely. Yes, I've heard that could be an issue. I'm good friends with a girl that's 6'3". Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you know, people think women have just got it easy on every count, and that's not necessarily true. It's all Rusty Fuel says it's all designed to benefit cats. Well, that's an interesting conspiracy theory. The marriage causes divorce says the future is serial monogamy, lots of short relationships with guys who have done the Edge 3. Yes, get on board the Edge 3. You still can. It's still time. Email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, if you want some actual training in this stuff, not just talking theory, but actually teaching you how to become that elite level dude. With James Tussick, etc. Abraham Rojas says, high value man, of course, it's always been that way. Mothers have been pushing their daughters to find someone who has a good job, who has a good car, and who's able to take care of themselves for decades now. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing new under the sun. It's just that technology is somewhat accelerated and enabled the ability for relationships to happen that may not have otherwise happened. Miguel, where can we find good women who can still believe in family, long-term relationship? I don't know. Go to more traditional countries. I don't know if that's Miguel in. I don't know if that's the Miguel I think it is. If it's in Mexico, sorry, Miami. I mean, I would arguably go to more traditional countries, but I mean, even those countries now, in many cases, you know, there's a lot of infidelity happening there. There's a lot of divorce and stuff. So I don't really know, to be honest, what the answer to that is. You've just got to go and look for your unicorn, I'm afraid. Would you ever start a business to help all these women looking for a high value man? Would you get lots of customers? Well, look, I mean, part of the vision for this channel is that we help women as well. Okay. And we are doing content that is more aimed at women as well. We'll be talking about, okay, so maybe you want to look at this, maybe you want to consider that. The problems that women face and the potential solutions that they have are very different to those for men, because with men, to be honest, you can really improve your situation through self-improvement of various types. You genuinely can. Okay, there's a lot you can do with women, because men are very visually focused. Obviously, physical aesthetics, that's a big thing. Women can improve that. But then if they're fixated on, well, I want to date this guy who's a CEO and he's got a 12-pack and he's 7 foot tall and he's earning $1 million a month and whatever, then she has to recognize there's going to be competition for that guy. The advice would be, we'll go for somebody who's a little bit lower down the pecking order. But is a woman genuinely going to take that advice on board? I mean, you can't. The feels are the feels, aren't they? You can't logically force someone to feel differently. You know, you can't argue your way out of biology. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. But I think a degree of understanding reality is important for all of us. JBB, if I had 5K, I'd definitely go to Colombia or wherever. But you don't have to go to Colombia because we're running an online program. So all you need to do, it's only a few $100s. Email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and I'll explain. But you don't need to come to Colombia. We're doing online webinars and stuff. RJ Flores, what do you think of niche maxing? I see a lot of skinny, effeminate hipster men with hot women who have a similar aesthetic. I think there is a class element to that, especially in London. Look, I think masculinity can express itself in different ways. I'm not really an exponent of you've got to be this like 2D kind of bald, you know, just like hench kind of dude in order to be regarded as masculine. I think it can come through in different ways. If it's working for those dudes, great. I think you've got to play to your strengths, and I think you've got to not try to be someone you're not, if that makes sense. Okay. And I also think that you can still express masculinity. It's not so much about the clothes. It's not so much about, you don't have to be riding a Harley, right? It's not about the cliches. It's about how that masculinity is expressed and the masculine feminine polarity with her. Now, there are, you know, some more different relationships where the men are more submissive and all that kind of thing. But that's not really my subject area. That's not really what I'm talking about. If you're talking about just hipster guys who, like a Harry Styles kind of guy who wears more like effeminate clothing and he's getting loads of girls, great for him. I don't really have an issue with that. There's certainly, you know, there's certainly an audience for that, let's say. Yeah, Flores, with my previous post, there's still a status element within that women are going for, even if it may not seem initially obvious. Well, I mean, look, Russell Brand, once again, when he was younger, I thought he was fairly skinny kind of guy. He dressed in a very flouncy kind of effeminate way, and he was very, very popular with women. So, look, it takes all sorts. You don't have to fall into a specific sort of stereotype. In fact, actually, often if you step out of the box and you've got the balls to present yourself differently, that's actually going to work in your favor. So, yeah, different things can work. But that's slightly off topic for today anyway, I would say. I mean, but I don't think not everybody has to be Rich Cooper, okay? Not everybody has to be Andrew Tate or whatever, right? It's not like there's just this one presentation of masculinity, and if you haven't got that, you're fucked. It just doesn't work like that. But you do need to bear in mind masculine feminine polarity. Like the way that I play it, for example, the way that I play masculinity is different to, I don't know. I mean, a lot of other people, right? Like, because I'm coming at it from a slightly different. I'm coming at it from this sort of faux, not even faux, genuine. You know, like English gentleman kind of vibe. I'm sort of like, I am relatively articulate. You know, we were talking yesterday about intelligence. I'm not foregrounding intelligence. I'm not trying to make her turned on because I'm intelligent, but nevertheless, you know, there is that element to me. But I can also be playful. I can also be flirty. I can also be fun. I'm wearing this kind of stuff a lot of the time. I'm not sitting there in a kind of like a vest and with the tattoos out and all that kind of stuff. So I'm playing a certain type of archetype. It works very well for me. It may not work so well for other guys. You've got to look at, what your strengths are, what your archetype is, and play into that, okay? Value and masculinity express themselves in many different ways, and you've got to find something that's congruent with you and your personality. A marriage causes divorce. £2 for the new shirt fund. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That very much appreciated. Thank you so much. That will go to a good home. SJ says, I think it's a psyop. The girls go for Harry or Brand riding Holly weirdos or brand riding Holly weirdos push. Girls aren't authentically pursuing him to some extent. Leo as well, but given his status is real. Well, I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, we're getting sidetracked slightly with this. Women, the reality is there's always been a market for somewhat sexually ambiguous guys as far as women are concerned. You've got to look at people like David Bowie, even people like Boy George. It's been going on for a very long time that there is a subset sector of women who are attracted to guys who are more experimental with that stuff. Okay, I'm not advocating it. I'm not saying go out there and buy a dress and buy some makeup or whatever, but it does exist. It would be disingenuous to claim it doesn't exist and it's not a real thing. Okay, it's not that every woman is secretly craving a bloke with a lumberjack shirt and a pig and an axe. Like women do have different tastes. There are different markets. Okay. Once more, you should play to your strengths. For me personally, I think the classic, particularly with my age and stuff, I think the classic, more gentlemanly kind of look works quite well for me generally. But you got to make your own choices with this stuff. Anyway, but that's slightly something else.